Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla. Let's go over what is happening with the stock and what we can expect moving into the final day of the week and into next week. So as per usual, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice and I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you enjoy my technical analysis, etc., I do share my thoughts, updates, etc. on the charts, mainly on Tesla stock, but sometimes other stocks as well. Pretty much every day the market is open, so definitely check it out for just $3 a month. That link is down below in the description of the video, or for $5 a month you get access to all of that plus NVIDIA daily updates as well. So let's jump into it. Tesla closing down for once in the red, closing down 1.5% and down a little bit more after hours, closing at 418 per share. So what does this mean moving forward for Tesla? Well, let's just get the most obvious things out of the way, right? The most obvious things out of the way will be, where is it? There it is, right? I mean, the 9 slash, I actually switched it to 10. I think 10 gives a little bit more accuracy, but the 8, 9, 10, they all pretty much mean the same thing at the end of the day, right? The short-term momentum is bullish. There's no question about that. And really, again, on the daily, as long as it remains above this green line, there's really no reason to be overall bearish on Tesla, right? And maybe if it sets up some kind of bearish, reversal candlestick pattern, okay, we can start discussing some things. For instance, you can see here, it might be, it's kind of close to a dark cloud cover. I'm not sure if I would qualify this as a dark cloud cover pattern. It's kind of close, but I feel like it's just missing a few extra elements that are necessary. For instance, if Tesla closed lower on the day, like if it closed at really 415 or lower, then you can definitely have a bit more validity to it, but it didn't close. So I don't know, I'm not sure if I like it as much, but just thought I'd bring it up anyways. It's kind of close, but it's not perfect. It's a bit of a rough looking one, but nonetheless, potentially a reversal pattern being set up there. But again, ultimately, as long as we're above the 9/10 or whatever EMA, it's bullish. It's really just simply bullish. There's just really no other way to put it. It's just simply bullish. So that's step number one. Get that most obvious thing sort of out of the way. Actually, let me turn this back on. Get that sort of out of the way. Now, what is the next thing to look at, right? This is where we want to start looking kind of at the candlestick patterns and whatnot, right? So first and foremost, I just want to make this also very clear that, my bands, again, the stock is squeezing. The stock is obviously having extreme momentum. There's no question about that. But, it is approaching some very, very, once again, extreme levels up here. That's not to say that it has to top up here. It just means that, if you are trading or playing up here or whatever the case may be careful. That's all it really means. Just be a little bit careful because it is at very elevated territory. We know that already, but thought I'd mention it just in case. Now, let's look at the actual candle patterns, right? So the thing I do like about Tesla is the fact that, well, it's obviously making higher highs, higher lows, etc. That's obviously a good sign. There's no question about that. And I actually like the fact that as it did sell off today, somewhat aggressively from the highest point of the day to the lowest point of the day, it did sell off about 3.5%, right? But the thing I actually do like to see so far, which can still give it some short-term momentum, at the very least, a move back up to equal highs up here, closer to 430-ish per share, is the fact that on the sell-off, it actually did turn the old all-time high, well, resistance, technically speaking, right, which you can see we actually did get, where is it? We actually did get a bit of that resistance right here, right? This was the all-time high. This line right here is previous all-time high, roughly 414.5. So that's a good sign. That is a good sign. The fact that it turned this area back into support is a good sign. I like to see that. And, found a little bit of a bounce as well into the end of the day. So that's a good sign. The way I look at it is, as long as we can maintain, honestly, above this previous all-time highs, there is a damn good chance that at the very least we come back up and we make another potential equal high up here, right? That that becomes a very realistic possibility. Now, if we start closing 15-minute, at least 1 hour, or especially daily candles below that all-time high level, like the previous all-time high level for 14.5 roughly, okay, I'm getting a little bit worried here, right? Okay, things are slowing down. The bullish momentum is dying off a little bit, and that's when we can revisit those moving averages again on that daily time frame. But until that happens, there is unironically still a chance that there's a bit more juice left in this gas tank before we, or I guess battery really, before we, potentially start a cool off, because the cool off will happen. It absolutely will happen at some point. Nobody knows when exactly. We want to look for those reversal patterns, not really seeing anything super obvious. I mean, again, this one's kind of close to one, like I just mentioned, just a little scuff, to be completely honest with you. I mean, most indicators are obviously well overbought, but I really just view like that. As long as we maintain above previous all-time highs, Tesla unironically still actually looks like at the very least, again, equal highs, maybe even higher highs, and make, go even higher ultimately. So that's the way I look at it. But again, if we do lose this, right, we can bring out, for instance, again, the moving averages on the daily chart. And at the very least, I'll expect us to come back down to that kind of 10-ish EMA right here, or worst case scenario, all the way back down to the 21 EMA, somewhere in the between the two moving averages is what I would more or less expect really moving forward on Tesla stock. Assuming that, of course, happens, and assuming we lose the all-time highs, right? So that's another way to overall kind of look at it. Now, we can go to the 15-minute chart here quickly, right? 15-minute chart, market bias is actually turning red now, right? So that's a little bit of a concern. You can see it's been green the majority of this move up, right? The vast majority of this move up, pretty much ever since it turned green all the way down here at about 350. On the 15-minute chart, it's pretty much been green, and I'm assuming on the 1 hour chart just as much, right? Also has been pretty much green. The majority of this move back up pretty much ever since that breakout of the ascending triangle pattern. So that's a good sign. That is a good sign to see, right? But what's not a good sign to see, so let me go ahead and go back here quickly. What's not a good sign to see is the fact that the 15-minute is turning red, right? It is turning a little bit red here. It is showing some signs of weakness. So let's see how this plays out, right? Because again, if we do lose all-time highs here and we do go below 415, another way to look at it is on the 1 hour market bias. We'll probably come back down into that market bias, which will be sitting somewhere around that 400 level, which could be a pretty decent support level because again, you can see, before it acted as a resistance here and then it acted as a support here. So there is a damn good chance that, it acts as a support once again, and we bounce off the market bias and we get potentially one more leg back up once again, right? So that's another way of looking at it overall. And the final way I would say looking at it right now is if we get a deeper correction, like if the correction is a little bit more steep, right? If the correction is a little bit more quote unquote painful, if you will. Fibonacci's, take that swing below over here. We made this low over here right before we pretty much blasted off. And again, assuming this is the top for now, we take the Fibonacci's. First level to look at pretty much lines up with the 382 at the 390s, but the levels I really care about on the Fibonacci's personally, where I really feel like I'm getting a discount if it ever comes down to it, of course, is going to be the 618 Fibonacci sitting at pretty much the mid-ish 360s. Worst case scenario, I don't think we'll get here, but worst case scenario, 340s. Mid to low 340s is the worst case scenario while still maintaining a bullish thesis. I don't think we'll get there. I think there's too much support on the way up, and I still think there's too much momentum. So in my opinion, if we get a deeper correction and things get a little uglier short term, I think the worst case scenario for the bulls is a correction back down into the 360s before we move up higher, which ultimately, again, all it comes down to is just simply we're taking that Fibonacci level. We're coming down to a very crucial Fibonacci level that should act as a powerful support. And on top of that, we'll be taking what was a previous level of resistance back here before that ascending triangle breakout. And we're just coming back to retest that before potentially maybe even making new fresh highs, or at the very least, setting up what could be potentially a double top up here, back up around this kind of 420s to 430s-ish range as well. So there's a lot of things to look out for because, Tesla is moving pretty volatile right now. It's a very volatile stock. It is, when a stock like Tesla especially is moving like this, it becomes a little more difficult to trade because, just unless you just buy and hold, obviously, but, in terms of just really finding a proper edge, because, the thing with these kind of moves is the fact that yes, it's very parabolic, but it almost feels like a dynamite in your hand, where at some point it feels like it's going to explode, and it feels like which Tesla is known for is going to come back down almost as fast as it went back up, right? Which Tesla does do. It almost feels like it's just a matter of, man, when is that going to happen? Is it now or maybe later, or when, right? That's probably the main question I'm sure a lot of people are kind of asking themselves and wondering whenever playing the stock while it's, of course, elevating like this. But nonetheless, I still obviously think Tesla, absolutely no questions asked, is very, very bullish. It just broke all-time highs. It's hard not to think the stock is bullish, breaking all-time highs, clearly making higher highs. So like I said, watch for those levels moving forward. First main support level, like I said, previous all-time highs, 415. That could be all she wrote. If we lose that, I do expect us to most likely come back down to the market bias on the 1 hour chart, which will be somewhere closer to the 400s / very, very high 300s, like 390s, let's say. That's assuming it happens quickly. Obviously, if it takes longer, the market bias will continue moving its way up, and 400 could be all she wrote. Or if we lose that on the 1 hour chart as well, I personally think that the correction will most likely be steeper, and we most likely will correct back down to at least a 4 hour market bias, which actually, by the time that happens, will most likely line up pretty fantastically with that 365 Fibonacci 0.618 level I just mentioned, and that should be that final support area. And I don't think we'll go much lower than that, at least for now, before a pretty decent bounce back up on Tesla stock. And I think, you know, it should be pretty damn nice to see. So yeah, that's kind of all I got for you right now. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think down below. Let's take a quick look at options flow, of course, before we end off this video, and let's see what the options flow is saying. Actually, I want to take one more thing over here. If you look at the 1 hour chart, actually, on the market, on my bands, you can see it's actually holding too, right? The white line, the median line, which is essentially like a 20-day-ish moving average, looking pretty solid too, right? Looking pretty solid because it's holding as support as well, which is lining up with all-time highs, which is why this level is pretty important to hold. Because if we lose this level, I do think we start a small correction, nothing major, but I do think we start a small correction back down. Again, 400 main level, the first one. Below that, I actually think we can go down to 365. But yeah, those are the 3 levels to watch out for. Options flow, actually kind of mixed. You can see the percentages here. But I mean, the bulls obviously still dominating the bears. But, you know, definitely a lot more mixed today compared to most other days. You know, the bullish flow is definitely not as bullish as it used to be. It's still bullish, but not as bullish. And, you know, the bears are really, you know, they're starting to step in. They're starting to, you know, call this bluff almost, if you will, on the stock, right? They're not very happy about this move up, and, you know, they're looking to start pushing this thing back down. So let's see if they're able to do that or not. In terms of confirmed options flow and whatnot, what do we have here? Tesla is actually, from what I can tell, nowhere really to be found. Looking. Can't find it anywhere in the bullish flow. Let's take a quick look at the bearish flow. There it is. It's actually down here, only at 10 million. Nothing too crazy, nothing to really write home about. So yeah, let's see how this plays out. Let's see what happens moving forward. And yeah, if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace.